Good evening, team. Tonight I am joined by two people who supported the world record attempt at the world's highest marathon recently, which was put on by Becoming X. Nigel Vardy, who is a mountaineer, also known as Mr Frostbite. Sara Storey is a public sector senior leader, enabling people with disabilities to live their best lives, and she's also run the Marathon des Sables. We want to thank Swiss Canyon Trail Ultra for supporting the podcast. Yeah, we're really looking forward to getting stuck in with them. So I shall let them in the room right now. Hello. Hi. Is it Sarah or Sara? Sorry.
It's Sara.
Sara. Hello, Sara. Welcome. Hi, Nigel. How are you?
Well, I'm still alive. You know how it is.
Well, I'd like to think it's a bit more than just living, still being alive, Nigel.
Oh, believe me, I have a great nephew bouncing around two doors down, and he's a very, very happy little boy. So yes, it's
excellent.
About that.
Excellent. Where? Oh, tiny.
He came 5 weeks premature. Yeah.
Oh, bless.
But he's doing well. He's doing all right.
Excellent. You are in Ohio, I think you said?
Yes.
So
right.
you're
Ohio,
yeah. You're a bit behind us, so it's still daytime for you. Sara, whereabouts are you based?
I'm in York.
Oh, you're in York. Okay. Yeah. Just down the road. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for joining me. I don't know, when was it now? It was a couple of months ago now, wasn't it? Was it February? You were in. Yeah. Was it Peru?
Chile.
For the Chile. Okay, right. Yes. Well, there we go. So many questions. But you were both supporting, weren't you? Or were you running, Sara?
I was running, although it's running in the loosest possible terms, because it was very slow running, jogging or walking for most of it.
Yeah. But it was, so the attempt was for the world's highest marathon, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Sara, let me ask you first, how did you get involved? How did this even come about, and why did you want to do it?
Okay, so my running coach, Rory Coleman, knows Paul Gurney from Becoming X, and I think they were doing some filming in Bath, and they'd been involved in the world's deepest marathon, which was happened last September in Sweden. And I think Paul mentioned this challenge, this race, to Rory, and Rory said, I think I know somebody who might be interested in that. And that was it, really. So
yeah, okay, yeah. Brilliant. Because yes, what about it tempted you? What was it? Was it the record, or was it the location, or was it the altitude?
I think just the challenge of it all, really. I'm relatively new to ultra running, but I did quite a lot last year, and I've done some fairly challenging races so far. Yeah, and it just, I mean, first of all, it sounded like an amazing experience. So just to get to go to Chile and climb the volcano, like nothing I've ever done before or tried before. So I just thought it was such a unique opportunity. I just couldn't really say no to it, really.
No, I bet. Nigel, how did you get to be involved?
Oh dear, this is a bit long-winded, so I'll cut it down. I've known Paul a long time. I met Paul on the north face of Elbrus 14, 15 years ago, something like that. And then I got involved in Becoming X, the project that Paul drives, not long after that, with some filming. And we've always stayed in touch, and varying things have come and gone in the past. And then one day it's sort of, Nigel, we're looking to do this thing. What do you think? Obviously, I can't run. I don't have toes, and I can assure you that doesn't allow you to run far at all. But what I can do is crew, and I crew the Spine race on safety teams and other events like that. So I just said I'll happily come along. I'll try and climb the peak, but I'm not going to be actually taking part in the marathon itself. What I can do is support the people that are making the attempt.
Well, obviously, you've got huge mountaineering experience and what it's like operating at altitude, because I mean, I can't imagine what it's like. I mean, is it 44% less oxygen than down here.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's pretty thin. Let's put it this way. We're not certainly going up. You're breathing with alternate steps. You're counting your breathing. You're keeping in pace. This is not just running down the road at sea level in any way, shape, or form. So actually, just going up in big mountain boots with all the necessary equipment to stop yourself getting frostbite, because I'm not having that happen again. And then actually just to get up there and then to start running down. I mean, what a huge undertaking. I couldn't make it to the top of the peak, but what I could do was support other people and get other people. I did a lot of driving, 4x4 driving, to get people up and down, to get them to safety if they needed to do so, get them to recover, and also, to support the people that were actually doing the full event like Sara did.
Yeah. Yes, because I mean there were more of you that started, weren't there? But I think only 5 of you were able to complete the challenge in the end. What I mean, yeah. Well, no, I'll tell you what, let's go back further because we need to go. Let's start at the beginning. It took you 2 weeks to get up there, didn't it? I mean, it's such a remote place.
Yeah, so because the base camp was at over 4,000 meters, and then the peak itself is at 6,893 meters altitude, which is pretty serious. So the kind of bulk of the first 2 weeks was acclimatization. So we spent 3 days just traveling to base camp and stayed a couple of nights at lower altitudes before we got there. So yeah, just to get to the sort of start of the climb of the volcano was a bit of an undertaking to get to that point. Yeah,
an adventure in itself, I imagine.
It was.
Yes. And so your base camp was at 4,000 meters.
I think just over. Was it about 4,300, Nigel, at Laguna?
4,344, something like that.
Place I knew we'd know the exact number.
Laguna Verde, or the Green Lagoon. So
yeah.
I mean, presumably people that have been skiing kind of know what it's like to go up high, but certainly at that level is a whole new level even in itself for most people to do any activity. What's the air like at that altitude, and how do you train in it?
I mean, it's so I had zero experience of climbing big mountains. I'd only been to just over 4,000 meters before, once a very, very long time ago. And I did a trek in the Inca Trail. And so I had no idea what it was going to feel like, but I did hire an altitude tent and generator for the 4 weeks beforehand. So I only knew I was going about 5 weeks before the trip. And that was just before Christmas. So I didn't have very long.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, but so yes, I did hire some kit from the altitude centre. So I slept in an altitude tent every night for 4 weeks, and I did some interval training on the treadmill with the mask and generator on, just to do my best to prepare. And then once we got there, we had some gentle acclimatization walks, but it was, by that point, you're probably just as fit as you're going to be, really. So I think for all of us, it was just about letting your body adjust to the altitude. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Nigel, what was it like for you? I mean, do you just love going up no matter what? Are you happy in the mountains? Do you need to acclimatize?
Yeah, I mean, we all need to acclimatize. The difference here is that in a great many parts of the world, you tend to walk in. So you're spending your days on foot, slowly climbing to base camps or whatever camps you're establishing on the mountain. The difference here is you're driving. Okay. So you gain a great deal of height in a very short time. And you just can't do that easily. You can quite easily, you should be able to get up to 3,000 meters or so. And as you said, many skiers will get up to that on some ski lifts in the world. The difference is that you clip your skis on and go straight back downhill. Right. You're not carrying a rucksack. You're not carrying gear. So to actually drive up to these altitudes, you get out the car, and even that feels an effort sometimes, and you can be a bit woozy. So it's not just we drive a day, we climb 1,000 meters. We drive a day, we climb 1,000 meters. What you've got to do is rest, and you've got to let your body catch up, and that takes time. So
Okay.
what we did is, as Sarah was saying, we did some driving. We had a night. We did some more driving at a couple of nights, and some acclimatization walks in the day. Looking at some very stunning, beautiful Atacama countryside.
Mm.
But then when you get to base camp, you are not running around. There is no way you can physically do this. People can struggle even putting a tent up for the first few hours because they're not as cognitive as they ought to be. But it
Okay.
does turn. You've got to drink a lot of liquids. You have got to stay wonderfully hydrated. And particularly with a climate like the Atacama, it's incredibly dry. It's desiccating. So when you breathe out, you're breathing out moisture, but you're not bringing anything back in. So you've
Right.
got to drink buckets of water, litre
Wow.
after litre after litre, but also not wash all the salts and such after your body as well. So, it's that balance, and eat well. And that's an issue people can have at altitude. They can lose their diet, their
Mm.
want, the desire for food very quickly. We were very lucky. I mean, we had a fantastic base camp crew who were just wonderful with the food, plenty of drinks on board 24/7. But it's the desire to run when actually what you've got to do for a few days is walk and let your body genetically, chemically, and everything catch up to that altitude. And it took a couple of days. We were walking around the base camp, did some acclimatization walks uphill, and then you go for it. You've just got to commit to the actual event itself,
Mm.
which is what people did. And I was absolutely overjoyed with the fact that people could get up there in really cold conditions after what I think was actually quite a quick acclimatization, and actually succeed in this. As I say, I didn't. I'm not so great on my feet, and my lungs were not quite up there with everybody else. But I know when to say no, and that's a huge lesson people need to learn by
Mm.
experience. There's very few other ways of doing it. Is learning when to actually say, I need to turn around now, or we're going to be an epic country. And I assure you, 6,500 meters up a mountain is not the place to do that.
No. Does is do people acclimatize differently? I mean, do some people are some people unable to acclimatize at all, or can everyone do it just given time?
I think everybody can do it. We are all at different rates, and I wouldn't directly attribute fitness to acclimatization. Some people will come in incredibly fit,
Mm.
incredibly strong, and not acclimatise well at all. Some people will come in as if they walked off a park bench and acclimatise fantastically. And you can flip that round as well. You can go on one trip and acclimatise well. You can go on another trip and not. Um,
Oh
we're
wow.
all
Okay.
different. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're all very
interesting.
different.
How did you find it, Sarah?
I wasn't too bad actually. So I was really fortunate that I didn't really feel ill. And some people in the group were really ill, as in really sick and bad
Really?
headaches, and
Right.
really struggled. And as Nigel says, altitude, it's just no respecter of fitness or age or gender, any of
Mm.
those things. It can kind of there's not really too much you can do to prepare. But I was okay. I had a couple of headaches a couple of nights, but in general, I felt pretty good. So, whether the preparation I'd done helped with that,
Yes. I
yeah,
mean, do you think the
hopefully it did.
tent might have helped? Yeah. I mean, just stuff like that. I mean, it must help. Otherwise, people wouldn't do it, would they?
Yeah, I think
Um,
so. Just giving you that extended period of acclimatization, and I don't know if it helped psychologically as well that I did the
mm,
interval training on the treadmill with the mask and the generator, so I just wanted to know what it might feel like to be trying to breathe and move quickly at that sort of altitude. It felt really, really hard,
I
by
can
the
say,
way.
is it
Yeah,
is it just sort of preventing the amount of oxygen getting to you with the mask
with
on?
the
Is it
mask,
just
yeah. So it's
reducing the flow?
simulating high altitude by reducing the oxygen. So you just have to work really hard to breathe in, and even just walking on a gentle
Mm,
incline, you'd be breathing like you're sprinting. So my core muscles definitely
really?
strengthened during that period, because that's that sort of being able to sort of really pull in the air, pull in the breath, I could tell that had made a difference. But yeah, in terms of the sickness, quite a few of our group, unfortunately, we're quite unwell, and on the climb, people really wanted to get up there, but the altitude, the weather, the terrain, lots of factors, I think, were just really, really hard. Yeah.
So was a decision made? Okay, we're going to make the attempt on X day, or is it made sort of right? Okay, well, we think most of you have acclimatized. We'll do it tomorrow. How is it arranged just sort of logistically?
So there was a schedule, and I think there were 2 potential attempt days in the schedule, just so that Gavin Bate, who was the the main guide and logistics guy for the trip, he did a fantastic job. I just can't begin to talk about the planning and prep that must have gone into this before I even got involved. So Gavin's idea was that there were 2 days in the schedule that we could potentially use, and that once we got to Chile and then got to base camp, he'd be looking at the weather to see which would be the best day to do that. So we pretty much knew when we were going to go up from the start, but it was just a case of, I guess, finalising that. Yeah.
So going to the top. You only went to the top on the occasion that you made the attempt. There was no going up before that, just to maybe hike it or just to see what it was like up there.
No, I mean, we went out the day before. We did a recce, so we checked out the route to drive to Tejos, which is the highest point pretty much that vehicles could get to, which would be our start point to climb. And I'll probably get Nigel to tell you a bit more about that drive, because that was really interesting in itself. We had sponsorship from Ford with some great 4x4 vehicles. And I have to tell you, Nigel is the off-road king when it comes to driving. He did a great job, as did our other drivers.
I know this.
So so sort of recceing the drive itself was important, and then we went to Tejos and we walked a little way. Just I think Gavin wanted us to get up to about 5,500 meters, maybe a little bit higher, just again for another acclimatization walk, but also then we sort of have an idea of the route for the marathon. So obviously the route that we took from our base camp driving up to the start point for the hike up was the marathon coming back down again. Yeah. So we had a better idea of that. So that was the day before, and then on the day we started the ascent at 1 a.m. So I think we left base camp about 11ish, and we started to hike up at 1 a.m. Yeah.
So Nigel, tell me about the landscape up there. I mean, to me, you as a mountaineer, I have these images of ropes clinging to the side of a snowy, rocky mountain, but then this is a volcano, and looking at the video on the website, there's this sort of large, almost not a savanna, but desert, a sort of Arctic type of desert. I mean, what is there water up there? How do you get up there?
Well, the thing is, obviously, you can drive to base camp, and that's a tarmac road that goes over the border into Argentina. So that's at over 4,400 meters on tarmac.
Okay.
And we joke at the time that the last thing you need up here is to come from sea level and have a burst tire and a breakdown, because it would not be a place safe to stay if you hadn't acclimatized. Now, from there, we could drive to Tejos, which is basically a metal shipping container that's been dragged up the mountain by 2 tanks, quite literally.
Okay.
And it's a base camp, basically. It's a shipping container that's there. And you can get there by a very interesting 4x4 route. Now, when we say that, we mean gravel roads to start with, then enormous sandy beaches, frankly, that it's very easy to bury it up to both axles in if you're not careful. Then rocky sections, And when I mean rocky, I mean rocky, and watching the sump of the vehicle very carefully in case you're going to ground the thing. And this goes on for a good 2 hours, alternating in height, intensity, steepness of ascent and descent there and back. And the secret with this thing is, when we say we drive a vehicle, you have to drive a vehicle. This is not cruising down a road on cruise control with the music on and it all being very pleasant. You have to feel everything through the wheel. You have to understand how to drive a vehicle on sand, very soft sand, at high speed if you can, just basically stop you sinking, and learn discipline as well. You don't enter a sand field in a vehicle and then go 10 yards, have somebody 10 yards behind you, because if you stop, they're stuck. So it's the things such as, let them get clear. Are they clear? We start. So that should something happen, it's only the one vehicle that's a problem. And as I say, you lock your vehicles into low ratio box, all four wheels locked, differentials locked from the first minute you leave the road. You don't even think about it. Fuel economy is out the window for a start. But you've got to be not aggressive with your driving, because people can be a bit too smart at it. You've got to consider your line into corners. Again, you're not on tarmac with give. You've got to consider the angle of, how you're going to tip the vehicle sideways or not, front or back, where people are. It's quite a lot to think about. You're really concentrating on what you're doing. Now, I'm fortunate that I have got pretty extensive 4x4 driving experience. So it still wasn't easy. But for me, it was something I could look at, deal with, take that in. And we very thankfully got all the vehicles to Tejas without any damage. We did have a couple of punctures on one vehicle. And again, you're thinking of logistics. Where are you going to get a spare tyre in the Atacama Desert? Because even at 4,000 meters, it's a combination of pumice and salt flat. So you get approximately 1 millimeter of rain a year here.
Okay. So
there are patches of green, there are springs and salt water flats and such, and flamingos in the water, at occasional points, but then there's nothing.
So you're carrying everything? Are you carrying fuel?
All of our fuel, all of our water, everything. And we did have to ask for 2 resupplies in the trip, because we're just burning fuel like there's no tomorrow.
Wow.
But then when things happen, you have to deal with them. So you're going up sort of, in fact, to give it a description for people, this is where they test the Mars Rangers that they physically send to the planet Mars. So if you imagine what you think a Martian landscape is, with the odd vehicle in it and the odd human being running up a mountainside, that's just about what it looks like. And it's not a dissimilar colour either. It's got that reddy tinge to it. It's a very aggressive dust as well. It gets in everything. It's sharp. So your skin will get very dry. It'll get in your eyes. It gets in, with me, skin grafts. There's a lot to consider. And of course, the engines and the vehicles. So as I say, it's not just going out for a jolly 4x4 in a day. It's a massive physical and logistical undertaking just to get somebody to the start line.
And for the runners, I mean, they're breathing this in, I imagine, as well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that must be. Did you have any kind of after effects from that?
No, I don't think so. I think, I mean, the dryness, Gavin had talked about this a lot before we went and emphasised, skin creams and saline nasal sprays and eye drops and lip balm, those sorts of things. But I think pretty much everybody had, really dry, chapped and broken, finger ends and lips. It's incredibly dry. And again, it's really hard to carry enough water. It was impossible to carry enough water or fluids even just for the ascent. So that really, really low humidity, that dryness sort of really added to the challenge.
Yeah. Were you rationed? Did you have to ration your water?
I mean, I can't really work out how I managed on how little I had because it was so cold. So we think it reached about -30 with wind chill at the top. So I think I'd taken 2 litres. 1 litre of that was in a flask, and I put hot water in. and I drank about half of that, and then my other 2 bottles froze completely solid at some point. So I worked out I'd had about half a litre of water in about 15 hours. So the climb up to the top of the volcano and part of the way down until I got to Tejas, and we could refill, which is incredible, really.
That is, gosh, yeah. Wow. Okay, so I'm building up a nice mental picture here of this epic expedition. Before we get to the actual run, why were you doing this? What was the purpose behind this enormous effort to get there? Go on, Nigel.
Take that one first, Sara, and then...
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's down. I think it's down to Paul really, and becoming X, and I guess just that purpose of challenging yourself, striving for to do things that feel like they're impossible or near impossible. And I think Paul, I've quoted Paul before on this, but he said something a couple of weeks before we went about a lot of what you do, the outcome's pretty certain, but when you do something like this, a challenge like this where the outcome is uncertain, it's a very different ball game. So if the outcome's certain, it's just organised fun. I think that was his quote. And a lot of people I know don't, we know a lot of people who don't sign up for races or runs that they don't think they can complete. But kind of, attempting something that just sounds near impossible, if not completely impossible, is something really different and something really quite special. So I don't know what sort of a mind comes up with something like this. It sounds completely bonkers. It sounded completely bonkers when I first heard about it, and it sounds completely bonkers now when I tell people what we did. It still feels really surreal. But I think that just striving to attempt the impossible and see if you can make it possible.
Yeah. Do you think it's are we striving still to find challenges that humans just we're still trying to find those challenges we haven't done yet? Do you think it's
it's really I mean it's so unique, I think, nowadays to find something that hasn't been done before like this. It's really, really unique. And for me, I feel like I don't know where my limits are yet. I've not sort of found them, and there's something in me that wants to keep pushing, I guess, until I do. So that opportunity to be in such a unique environment, doing something so unique, it just isn't going to come along very often for people.
How about you, Nigel?
Well, I mean, for me, obviously, I was coming along on the challenge not to actually complete the challenge, because I understand that, I can't run. No. I was hoping I might be able to at least get up the peak and back. As it happened, I couldn't. But that's just based on years of experience of knowing my limits and having to understand now that I have skin grafts on my feet, having lost my toes to frostbite. My hands are obviously very reduced, and I've got facial skin grafts as well. So I always knew there was a chance I wouldn't get there. That's okay. But for me, it's more the fact that I can help other people. And that's basically what I've dedicated my life to these last few years. Is I still go and have crazy adventures, and people call me all kinds of crazy names. But on something like this, like when I work on, say, the spine or other things, I'm supporting other people. And to me, that's the world, because this is what I really enjoy doing, is helping other people succeed through their goals, their desires, their experiences in the best way that I can, and being there for them. So obviously, on summit day, Sara and the others are away for hours, and we're going, crikey, we thought this thing might end in the night. We didn't realise which night. But the fact is, we're there for them. So when they need water, when they need backup, when they need support, a round of applause, you're doing really well. Whatever it is, that's my job. And for me, that's enough. That's all I ask for. And then to help other people, hopefully, succeed, because those we've said earlier, we had 2 days for the summit. And when you stood in England, that sounds all well and good. When you get there and it's blowing a hoolie for 2 weeks up there, nobody's going on a peak. You can never judge exactness in this trade. And that's another thing. And Sarah put it very well. You know, this is not just a bit of fun. This is serious stuff. And we can't have people up there getting frostbite, getting injured, things going wrong. You know, everything has to be based on a safety context, but also it's there to be pushed. It's there for you to find that limit that you have. And if you can go that bit further, all well and good. Some people will say, this is not for me. Okay, that's fine too. But the opportunity is there. And then hopefully, you know, people like me are there to drive the vehicle, back you up. You know, I even built the finish line. That was one of my jobs, was to actually put a finish line up with an official big finish banner so that people could cross it, because that's one of the things you actually have to provide in a race. So I had my little jobs on a different side, using, you know, my 30 plus years of experience in the mountains to get other people across that line.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so you made the decision, or Gavin makes the decision, right, we're going to try it. We're going to make the attempt. You drive up to as far as you can, and then how many of you started? Was it just the 5 of you, or did you all start and then some of the others struggled with the altitude and had to pull out? How did that happen?
We all started together, so there were I'm trying to remember now. So 10 runners, 6 support staff. We had film crew with us, so a couple of the film crew guys and the guides, who were absolutely amazing. So it was quite a big group that started out.
So Nigel's driven you up there and kicked you out and said, right, well, no.
Yeah, so we all sort of drove over in convoy up to Tejos, which was where the vehicles could park up, and then we all got out and started hiking up together. And then the idea had been that because of the terrain, so on the recce, what we realised is that the terrain sort of at the base of the volcano is kind of a big open basin. That's where the sand pits and the rocky areas are that Nigel was talking about earlier that we'd driven through, and really unstable underfoot, lots and lots of tracks going off in different directions. And Gavin and Paul had sort of asked us as a group about this, but the decision was that we were going to stick together in two groups of 5 when we kind of started coming down from the top of the volcano, so that we could stay together in 2 groups as we went through this really difficult section, and then be supported by 2 support vehicles. Whereas if we'd all just kind of spread out, potentially that would have been really difficult safety wise. And then the route took us to the road that Nigel mentions. And so about the last, I think 15k then was a longer road. So the idea was by the time we got to that point, we could just sort of go off on our own if we wanted to. So as we started going up, the idea was we'd sort of naturally split into a couple of groups that would be, similarly paced. So as we started out, that did happen, but then because of the number of guides and when people became ill, a guide was needed to go down with somebody. So they were shuttling back and forth and helping people where needed. They were just absolutely amazing on the day. And eventually we sort of whittled down to the last 5 and 1 guide at the end. So I don't know what height the last person got to that didn't make it to the summit. And I sort of realised at that point that because we were down to 1 guide and 5 of us, if something happened, if one of us couldn't continue, then basically at that point we were all going to have to go down. So, we all made it up and we all made it down. So huge sort of team effort at that point. And I remember a conversation I'd had with Gavin beforehand where he'd spoken about this potential scenario that if people became ill or couldn't continue, you know, depending on the number of guides, the number of people, there could be that point where we might have to, you know, give up the summit, give up the marathon, because we would have to prioritise looking after each other. And I do remember thinking, when I sort of realised, because I hadn't realised for a while that people behind me had stopped and were going down, and then I sort of realised at some point that we were down to the sort of last 5 people, plus Mario, our guide, and I thought, oh crikey, we've got to do it now. You know, I've got to get up there, because if we don't, then we all don't. It was that sort of.
You don't want to be the one making everyone turn back.
And it would have been. I was absolutely the amateur in that scenario, and I have to say, you know, the rest of the, you know, the other 4 that you know, did the marathon with us, and Mario, they helped me so much getting up to the top of Ojos. I would not have made it without the help and support from the team. Definitely not. But also, you know, as I said earlier, I've never been to that altitude. I have so little experience. What I learned in that 2 weeks from people like Nigel and, you know, the other guys who've got just it's hundreds of years of experience between them. Sorry, guys, of expeditions and climbing mountains and world records between them. I learned so much. I would have struggled to learn that in 20 years on my own, I think. So yeah, absolutely fantastic team effort.
So what are you wearing? I mean, are you wearing trainers? Are you wearing
going up
mountain gearing? What?
Yeah, full on mountain gear going up. So sort of 5 layers on the top half, including a really, really great down jacket. And Montaigne, we were really, really lucky. Montaigne sponsored us with some fantastic gear, because you need really, really fantastic gear when it's going to be potentially -30. So yeah, full mountain boots, sort of 2-3 layers on the bottom, 5 layers on the top, really thick down gloves or mitts, and then the plan was we would go up in that gear, and then once we got back down to Tejos, that was the point that we would change into running gear and switch the big rucksacks for the smaller running packs.
Okay. So is it just 5 of you and the guides? And I mean, does anyone else make it to the very top, to the start, or is it just
just the 6 of us to the start? Yeah.
And then so you get there. Is there something marking the top? I mean, is there a starting point?
Well, I realised after about 11 hours of moving incredibly slowly and being absolutely shattered and feeling like you can't take another step for about 8 of them, there's this really difficult section that I think was about the last point that the last couple of people got to, sort of the caldera, and there was some ice up there, so there was ice and packed snow and gravel, so that was really hard, and it was 100km/h winds, and it was really, really cold. And then there's a lovely, well, described as a scramble. I'm here to tell you it was a rock climb. So the last 50 meters or so, it's roped, and you have to actually climb up in your mountain boots. So the actual summit, the highest point, is this sort of outcrop, if you like, that you climb up to, and it's not that big on the top. I'm not really sure we would have fit everybody up there if we had all made it. I think we'd have had to take it in turns. And then you might see in some of the photos, we'd got a sort of flag, a banner with start on it. So we've got a picture of us.
Yeah.
So we made our own start point sign.
And then you're turning around and just come down that scramble.
Yeah.
Wow. And you're exhausted and shattered. You've been going for 11 hours, and then you start the marathon.
Yeah. When I got to the top, I said it's really surreal. And when I got to the top and realised I was up there and who I was up there with, I remember thinking, oh, am I here? Is this real? And I had a little tear, thinking, oh wow, I've made it to the top. And then I had another little tear because I thought, oh no, I've got to do a marathon now. And the idea of continuing just felt ridiculous. So climb back down the scramble, coming back down the volcano. I felt harder to me than going up in many ways, because all of my stability and quad strength was just completely gone. So my legs were trembling, and it's really slippy, lots of loose scree. So I that felt really, really hard, that first sort of couple of hours coming down. And then when I got to Tejas, I had an hour there. So Sibu and I were sort of walking together, and the other three had gone on a little bit ahead, but we met up again at Tejas, had a ham sandwich and a banana, got changed, had a rest, probably about an hour, as I say. And then we carried on. So, just kept moving, kept going. And then it was a long, very, very long, slow trudge for most of it. That's the best way to describe it.
Was there much running actually occurring?
There was a bit to start with. So bearing in mind, we left, what time did we leave Tejas? 5 p.m-ish, something like that. So we'd got about an hour and a half to 2 hours of daylight. So we did jog a bit to start with while it was still light, reasonably flat underfoot, although none of it was particularly good underfoot. But then as it dropped dark, and again, as that terrain was just really, really, uneven surface, lots of deep sand, rocks, stones. So, really tricky. And for me, I couldn't summon up much of a run after that, really. So, yeah, I wouldn't like to say how much I actually jogged. And, the whole challenge from start to finish, I think 28 hours for the first 3 finishes. And then Sibu and I took 29 and a half hours in total. So that's a really long time on your feet if that was at sea level and flat. Yeah. So to do that at that altitude and with that level of climb to start with, I was so tired. It was so painful. So yeah, just trudging along and just pulling my feet to keep moving, I think, for most of it. Yeah.
When did you first come across them, Nigel, when they came back down? Were you waiting for them at Tejas, or?
No, what happened is I set off with everybody on the initial ascent, and a few hours in, I got to just below the caldera. So I think that's about 6'3", 6'4", I'm not sure. It just became apparent that my feet were not having it and varying other things. So I decided to go back down, and one of the other runners came with me who was suffering. And I got back down to Tejas. Now, being support crew, I was then confronted by one of the athletes in the back of a vehicle on bottled oxygen, having come down earlier than myself. We got one of the other guys down who then put him on oxygen because their SATs were just in the floor. And at that point, my job was, no, just get these guys down to base camp, please, right now. So Gav actually helped me get my mountain boots off, because you can imagine I'm in 7,000 meter boots with hands that are half missing, trying to get them off in a hurry to help people. And I then took 4 other people straight back down to base camp and got them sorted. And they're now safe. They're certainly not at sea level, but they're at a better level. They're recovering. They're feeling okay. They can get some food and drink. My job then is to monitor what's going on, and I was trying to keep an eye on the trackers, that everybody got a spot tracker so we can work out where people are. And it was a very, very long day. And not for me running, it was a very long day watching, trying to work out what people are doing, not trying to go to sleep to sort of, crikey, what's happening, where are these runners, and keeping up with things. So I went through the next day, and we then came up the mountain a little bit just to get a rough idea what was going on in the vehicles, but we didn't want to come all the way in and commit to going over all those sands and rocks again, because we knew support with the runners. We knew there was only 5 of them left plus support. And so I decided at that point, guys, this is going to be a lot longer than we understood, but that's okay. We've got the time. Let's get some comms out. Let's get some messages to people. Let's get some sleep, because these guys are going to run through the night and they're going to need us. So we got the glorious whole 3 hours, which is 3 hours more than any of the runners, I assure you, and got out of bed at 3 a.m. and kitted up, got in the vehicles, knowing that the runners were coming down the mountain and getting close-ish at this point. We're still talking 6 or 8 kilometres out, because our responsibility then we came down the road, gave them some, verbal support, keep it moving, people. It's a ridiculous time of the day. They look ridiculously tired, but keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. We then have to do an off-road route to get to the finishing point, which wasn't too technical, but in the dark, everything looks very different. And you're driving in a dusty environment, at 3:30 in the morning. You're tired, the runners are tired. To get the finish line up, because we have to have a finish line. And some of the film crew were already there. So we got the finish line rigged up and then waited. And you're looking in the distance and you see these faint little glimmers of head torches miles and miles out, and thinking, come on, keep it moving, keep it moving. We're tired. How do you think these guys feel? And in the end, I saw 2 lights coming, and we're all meeting them ready at the end. It was actually 3 of the runners, because one of the guys' headlamps had failed by that point. It was just flat. Massive, massive support of them coming through. And then, of course, the film crew want to do instant interviews. So you're absolutely exhausted. You've been on your feet 36 hours, and somebody pushes a microphone in your face and says, so how was it for you?
How are you feeling?
But they've got a job to do as well. We're filming this piece for a documentary. They've got a job to do. You have to get in the moment. We got those guys into the vehicles. They're desperate to go to bed. Absolutely desperate. Like, guys, can we just go home? No, because Sarah and Sibu were coming. Sarah and Sibu were coming later on. We're there to support them as well. We are not driving past them saying, by the way, we're taking these folks to bed. Like, how demoralising do you want? We are waiting for them. And as Sara said, she came over with Sibu an hour and a half later. Again, massive round of applause, camera in your face. Let's do all this. And only at that point can we all start to settle down, break down the finish line, get in some vehicles. And then the hardest thing I find is then you're so excited and so wound up, and the dawn is coming, you can't sleep.
Yeah, so I remember you guys driving past, actually, when Sibu and I were maybe a couple of hours out. And so you drove by quite slowly, didn't you, to like pip the horns and shout and wave. And that did give me a massive boost. That was really, really nice. But then I couldn't even sum them up. Normally, Kate, when you do it, even if you've walked the whole ultra, you do a little obligatory run at the end. I couldn't summon up a run at the end of that one. I just trudged over the line. And then the temperature difference. So we had sort of -30 with wind chill at the top, but it got up to close to +30 degrees in the afternoons down at base camp. So a huge variation. But what that meant was that by about, 10 a.m, 9, 10 a.m, it was really, really hot and way too hot to stay in your tent. So once we'd finished, I think I got about 3 hours sleep. So we'd been up, we'd gone through 2 nights basically. So we'd been up for 48 hours, had about 3 hours sleep before the sun came up and just started baking me in the tent. And we were, we kind of all had to get up and, catch up on the sleep later. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Nigel, it sounds like you two are sort of opposites in terms of experience. How do you balance that urge and push, the ambition and the goal to meet that goal, with safety for the crew and knowing, someone like yourself, as you said, you knew where your line was and you knew, right, okay, I need to turn back now for my safety. How do you impart that? How do you look after people like Sara who don't have that experience? How do you have to just watch them like a hawk? How does it work?
I could never watch Sara. She's so fast, she's gone. She's gone. She's just gone.
It's not true.
I think the thing here, it's all the work that's gone in at the start. So you come with a plan, and we always joke that any plan never survives first contact with the enemy. So what you do is you have a plan, but you've got to keep continuously reevaluating that. So as Sara said, if all 10 got to the top, because initially it was thought the route up the mountain that people drive is one road, and when we drove it, we suddenly realised there were just tracks everywhere. Mm-hmm. So if solo runners are coming down and they wander off, you can imagine the safety implications there. So hence it then became 2 groups of 5, which then ultimately became 1 group of 5. But it was every evening, every day, it was, we thought that might work. Actually, we need to adapt it. We need to look at what's going on. And we had lots of conversations and massive credence here to Gavin Bay, who just worked his absolute socks off, physically and mentally, reevaluating. We thought it might work this way. However, we have to reevaluate this plan and look at. And also the Chilean guides, because they're there for your safety. And I had a guide with me and one of the other guys. It's just the way it worked out in groups as people move and go a bit faster, a bit slower. And I knew I could reevaluate myself, but the other chap with me was really suffering. And I would never tell anybody to go down. But he could see that he was not going to make it. And I was not going to say, look, you need to go down. That's not my job. But what I'm saying is, how do you feel? How do you honestly feel inside? And you have to be absolutely brutal with yourself and people around you. There is no prettiness here. No. Because we're in a very serious situation if things go wrong. And, I'm in mountain rescue in the UK. We can perhaps come out, we can help, we can get stretchers, helicopters if we have to call them. There's very little of that out there. So although I can feel what I feel, in the end, the other runner was on the Toms, because a lot of Toms on this trip, said, I can't do this anymore. I said, Tom, that's fine. Well done for taking the decision. Now let's get you down safely. There is no criticism. There's no finger pointing. There's no being silly. That was your day. You put every ounce of effort you had into that. Well done.
I think the biggest, the biggest element of the challenge, I think, was probably the uncertainty again, because if you think about, quite big races or ultra races that you would normally sign up for, there's almost always somebody who's done it before who can advise you on it. I mentioned Rory, my coach, earlier. I did the Marathon des Sables last year. Rory's done that 18 times. And there's lots and lots of other people who can tell you about it and you can prepare. But the uncertainty of the World Highest Marathon, I think, would be a massive challenge for a lot of people. Just there's lots of variables, lots of not even knowing exactly what day you're going to go, and lots of sort of variables in terms of not knowing what the train's going to be like, and not knowing what it's going to feel like, and how far you're going to get. I think that's the biggest.
That must be quite special, actually, to know that you're one of the first people. Your group is the first people to try to do this.
Yeah,
it must be amazing.
It's amazing. It's an incredible thought, and there is a previous record for the highest marathon. I think it's just almost 1,000 meters lower. So that this absolutely was extraordinary, and it does still feel surreal, but really, really extraordinary. Yeah.
Do you know if I know last time I checked the record was awaiting ratification. Do we know if that's come through yet?
So we're still so it's not been released into the media yet. But we've had the
brilliant
nod that we think it's going to be. So
brilliant. And I see you're trying again next year. Or becoming X and doing another one. They want to do something.
There might be something else, something a bit different, another unique challenge next year.
I think it's just come up on the website because I was looking at it.
Barking mad if it is.
Yeah, I think I was looking at it yesterday, and then today it's changed for 2027. So I think it's trying to do the world's highest marathon where the elevation is continuous, because I think this one is because you started at the top and kind of went down.
So this is from the highest point, and then the lowest point would have been Laguna Verde at just 4,300-ish meters. But I think the attempt next year is going to be for a marathon that's above the highest elevation for the whole of the distance. That's the plan. So let's watch this space.
Are you tempted to try again?
I'm definitely in. Definitely.
And you, Nigel?
Apparently, I've been told they need support crew. I mean, what more do I need to say?
We need you,
Can't
Nigel.
say no, can you? Yeah. No, I think it's well, wow. I mean, congratulations. That's
Thank you.
that's an amazing feeling. Were you the only woman to attempt it, if not just finish it?
I was, so Andrea was with us as well. So Andrea is from Chile, and unfortunately she became suddenly really unwell as we were going up, so she wasn't able to get to the top. So yes, I was the only woman that kind of got to the finish.
Doing it for the girls. Well done.
Yeah, exactly.
What other challenges do you have in store then? Do you have anything else this year?
So I'm off to the Marathon des Sables again in a couple of weeks. So that'll be my second return. So it's the 40th anniversary. We've got a special 100-kilometre stage in the middle of the 270 kilometres. And then I'm going to attempt my first. I'm going to attempt my first 100-mile race this year as well. So I might have a couple of other things in. Because I'm from Derbyshire, like yourself, Kate. So I really liked the Peaks race. I'm trying to think which company runs it. So there's an Action Challenge Peak District race from Bakewell, and then is it Merlin Peaks? I can't remember now.
There's Maverick.
It's the Maverick Peaks. Yeah. So I did a couple of those last year, and I really like running around in Derbyshire. So I might have to come back and try a couple of those again as well. So yeah, first 100-mile hopefully this year.
Oh, okay. Is that in the Peaks as well?
No, I've signed up for the Cheshire Ring, which is extraordinary, really, because it's the canal system. So I will have potentially have gone from the highest altitude and ascent to just a completely flat 100 miles, which I'm not sure if I'm regretting that now. But you know what we're like. I was sort of just like easily peer pressured into it, like as in, do you want to do this race with me? Yes, that was how it went. So yeah, I think that will be particularly challenging, actually, doing 100 miles just on really flat ground and not necessarily having amazing views at every turn, but lots of people are now going to be shouting, "It's beautiful around there." So yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm sure the canals are lovely. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh, well, good luck with that. I think it's an interesting one. I've just lined up an interview with Joe Turner, who is doing the world champs for the 100k, which is on the road this weekend. It's the Anglo Celtic Cup. Again, a lot of people, why?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that distance on roads. I'm not really a road run fan.
No, but that's the great thing about our community, is that we all do long distances, but the variety of what those distances do and the terrain they go over is
absolutely. There's so many ways to explore the world.
And Nigel, what plans have you got this year?
Well, there'll be no more running. Let's put it that. No, I'm going to disappear into the Norwegian Arctic at some point, because it's where I feel a very happy man. So one or two is from Buxton Mountain Rescue, and some friends are disappearing into there at some point. I'm then going to cycle the Loire Valley. There will be lots of wine, because cycling is something my feet will allow me to do.
Okay.
And then I'm sea kayaking in Greenland, so I can't get any closer to the sea.
You love that, don't you?
And I will be supporting the Summer Spine this year. I've signed up to do that. So I'll be, as I generally put it, watching other people suffer as I back people up. Because, again, that's what I do. I back people up. I try and help them out. And whatever the rest of the year brings, we'll find it out as we go. And that's for me. Once I get home from the States, of course, I'm in Ohio at the moment. And then we'll see what the rest of the world. I'll be, no doubt, hill walking in Derbyshire and looking forward to another winter. And we'll see what the rest of the year brings.
Excellent. Well, thank you both so much. That's been absolutely fascinating. Congratulations, both of you.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing the 2027 challenge.
Thanks for having us, Kate.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you.